The morning was crisp, the kind of early autumn day in Maplewood Drive where the air smelled of damp leaves and the world felt deceptively calm. The quiet hum of a suburban neighborhood in Crest Vyew Heights was shattered by the sharp, violent squeal of tires biting into the asphalt. A small figure, barely 7, lay sprawled on the cold pavement, her lavender backpack emblazoned with glittery kittens tangled beside her, one strap snapped. Her soft whimpers, fragile as glass, were nearly swallowed by the venomous shouts tearing through the air, bouncing off the tidy brick houses. A woman loomed over the child, her face twisted with rage, her voice a jagged blade slicing through the stillness. "You people always act like you own the damn street, clogging up everything," she spat. Across the road, Elise Harper, a woman most neighbors knew as the quiet one who walked her scruffy terrier, Daisy, froze. Her grip on the leash tightened, her knuckles whitening. Daisy let out a low, uneasy growl, sensing the shift in her owner's mood. Elise's heart thudded. The scene before her was gut-wrenchingly familiar, a raw, ugly display of cruelty she'd seen too often in her work. But this time, it hit harder, deeper. The child, clutching her leg, wore gleaming metal braces that glinted in the morning light. This wasn't just an outburst, it was a calculated attack on someone defenseless. Elise, a seasoned civil rights compliance officer for the Department of Education, was trained to stay detached, to analyze before acting. But the sight of this tiny girl, tears streaming down her face, and the woman later identified as VY and peer-spewing hatred without a shred of remorse, shattered that restraint. "Hey," Elise's voice cut through the tirade, calm but razor-sharp. "Back off. Now." VY spun, her eyes blazing. "Mind your own business," she snapped. But Elise stepped closer, her gaze unyielding. "It's my business when you're assaulting a child." Her tone carried a quiet authority that made VY falter, just for a moment. Neighbors began to emerge, drawn by the commotion. Porch lights flickered on, curtains parted, and a murmur of shock rippled through the growing crowd. VY, sensing the shift, scoffed. "Oh, great. Here's Miss Harper, the neighborhood know-it-all, sticking her nose where it doesn't belong." Just then, a yellow school bus rumbled into VYEW, its hydraulic ramp and safety harnesses marking it as one for special needs kids. The driver, a broad-shouldered man named Carl, leapt out before the bus fully stopped. His face, usually warm with a ready smile, was etched with alarm as he knelt beside the girl. "Lila, sweetheart, what happened?" he asked, his voice soft but trembling. Lila, her breaths ragged with sobs, pointed a shaky finger at VY. She pushed me." Carl's eyes darkened as he turned to VY. "Ma'am, this child has special needs. Those braces help her walk. There's no excuse for this." VY crossed her arms, a smirk curling her lips. "She was in my way, blocking the whole sidewalk. These kids get special treatment all the time, don't they?" Elise took another step forward, her voice low and deliberate. "You didn't just push her, Miss Pierce. You assaulted a disabled minor. That's a crime." She reached into her bag, pulling out her federal ID with a practiced flick. "I'm Elise Harper, civil rights compliance officer, Department of Education. I suggest you think carefully about your next move." VY and smirk vanished, her face paling as the weight of Elise's words sank in. The crowd's murmurs grew louder, a mix of shock and realization. Elise had moved to Crest Vyew Heights 8 months ago, CRAVYing a break from the relentless grind of legal battles and bureaucratic wars. She'd kept her high-profile job quiet, wanting to be just another neighbor, the one who walked Daisy and chatted about the weather. Lila, the girl VY had attacked, lived a few houses down with her mom, Nora. Lila's bright eyes and fierce spirit, despite her physical challenges, had made her a beloved fixture in the neighborhood. VY, though, was the oppositia loud, grating presence, always complaining about trivialities like unmowed lawns or kids playing too loudly, her words often dripping with entitlement. The assault on Lila shattered Elise's carefully built bubble of peace. It yanked her back into her professional role with a ferocity she hadn't felt in years. Sirens wailed as police arrived, and VY, still defiant, grew flustered as officers questioned her. Paramedics tended to Lila, whose scrapes were minor but whose emotional wounds ran deep. Nora rushed to the scene, her face a mask of fear and fury as she held her trembling daughter. "Thank you," she whispered to Elise, her voice breaking. "Thank you for stepping in." Elise's eyes stayed on Vivian, now being led to a police car, still protesting. "I'm just glad I was there," she said, her voice like steel. The story exploded. Local news grabbed it, first framing it as a simple assault, but when Elise's title and involvement leaked, it became a national firestorm. A federal officer witnessing a hate crime against a disabled child? Social media erupted with outrage at Vivian and praise for Elise. Advocacy groups demanded justice, and the Department of Education, under pressure, launched a full investigation led by Elise's office. Hate crime charges followed, backed by Elise's testimony, Carl's account, and neighbors' statements. Vivian's high-flying marketing job vanished overnight, her company citing irreparable damage to its image. Her public apologies were met with skepticism and louder calls for accountability. Elise grew close to Lila and Nora, helping them navigate the legal maze and offering steady support. She saw the lingering fear in Lila's eyes, the exhaustion on Nora's face. This wasn't just a case Anna Maria, it was personal. Maplewood Drive rallied around them. Neighbors held fundraisers for Lila's therapy and legal costs. A local church organized a VY Gill, and Lila's classmates sent stacks of heartfelt cards. But darker truths emerged. Some neighbors admitted, in hushed tones, to ignoring Vivian's past bigotry, dismissing it as just Vivian. Their silence, Elise realized, had let her prejudice fester, leading to this. The drama peaked at a town hall in the Crest VYEW High Auditorium, packed with tense residents. Nora and Lila sat up front, Lila clutching a tattered teddy bear. Vivian, out on bail, attended with her slick lawyer, Victor Lang, a move many saw as brazen. As she walked to her seat, the room fell silent, eyes boring into her. Speeches from the mayor and others stressed unity and tolerance, but Nora's words stole the air. Her voice, shaky at first, grew fierce as she spoke of Lila's nightmares, her fear of the outdoors, the theft of her joy. The crowd roared in support. Then Elise took the stage, not as a neighbor, but as Officer Harper. Her words, measured and heavy, outlined the legal weight of hate crimes and the government's duty to protect the vulnerable. As she wrapped up, Victor stood, interrupting. "Ms. Harper, my client's been unfairly VY-lified," he said smoothly. Her mental health issues, severe anxiety, a personality disorder drove this, not prejudice. A few nodded, swayed by the claim. But Elise wasn't buying it. "Mr. Lang," she said, her voice like ice, "we acknowledge mental health's importance, but accountability isn't optional, especially with a pattern." She nodded to a screen, where her team displayed anonymized EVY-DINS past harassment complaints, HR records, and VY-LU online posts, stretching back years. The room went still. Vivian's face crumpled, her composure gone. "It's not like that," she stammered. I get overwhelmed." Before she could finish, an older man, Mr. Callahan, stood. "I've stayed quiet too long," he said, his voice steady. "Years ago, Ms. Pierce screamed at my autistic granddaughter, called her a freak for flapping her hands in public. She told me to keep her out of sight." The crowd gasped. Then Lila, bolstered by Nora's touch, stood. "You hurt me," she said, her small voice piercing. "You didn't know me, but you were mean because of my braces and my skin." The room erupted in applause, a tidal wave of solidarity. Vivian sank into her chair, defeated. Victor's face was grim. The legal fallout was swift. With Elise's EVY-Denke, Callahan's story, and Lila's words, Vivian was convicted on all charges, including hate crimes. The judge, citing her history, gave her jail time, mandatory therapy, and a restraining order. Nora's lawsuit, guided by Elise, won a settlement to cover Lila's care and future. Vivian sold her house to pay it, her downfall complete. The Department of Education, spurred by Elise's report and public outcry, overhauled school policies, boosting protections and training. Crest VYEW Heights transformed, too. Workshops on inclusion sprang up, and a task force formed to root out bias. The community wasn't perfect, old prejudices lingered, but it was trying. Elise eased back into her quiet life, still close with Lila and Nora, now as a friend. Her walks with Daisy felt warmer, neighbors greeting her with gratitude. The memory of Lila's crumpled form haunted her, but so did Lila's returning smile, Nora's strength, and the community's shift toward justice. The ugliness was heavy, but the fight Lila's courage, Elise's stand, a neighborhood's awakening lit a spark of hope. One act of bravery had rippled outward, challenging a world still wrestling with hate. What do you think, did Vivian's mental health excuse her actions, or was her pattern of prejudice too damning? Should neighbors have spoken up sooner, or is silence understandable in a tight-knit community? And what about Elise Hero, or just doing her job? Drop your thoughts below. Hit that like button if this story gripped you, and subscribe for more raw, real tales that make you think. Let's get this conversation going.